G'day guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to take you on a virtual tour of the world's coolest neighborhood and where I personally live, Laureles. So late last year, an article came out written by Timeout magazine. This article listed the top 40 coolest neighborhoods in the whole world. Number one on this list was Laureles, Medellin. So today I'm going to be showing you some of the best areas of this neighborhood and telling you about the pros and cons. So if you want to visit or you want to move here, you're going to be well informed. But first, the question that's on your mind, why was Laureles voted the coolest neighborhood in the world? Well, let's jump onto the article and I'll read a bit for you. So here's the article by Time Out magazine, as I said, the 40 coolest neighborhoods in the world. And if you scroll down a bit, you're going to see number one right here is what this video is all about, Laureles. This neighborhood is home to the famed nightlife strip known as La Setenta, where every bar and restaurant floor can turn into a dance floor with the right song. And while you might think all of this would make Laureles a bit noisy and hectic, the neighborhood actually has a pretty laid-back reputation. The area outside of La Setenta offers tranquility in the form of parks, tree-lined streets, yoga studios, and countless coffee shops. Laureles still has a traditional Colombian neighborhood feel, despite its growing popularity. So some of the things mentioned in this article that make Laureles such a great place to visit and live, I'm going to mention a bit later. But first, let's set the scene. Let's jump on the Google Maps and I'll show you exactly where this lies in relation to the rest of Medellin. So here we go. Here is Medellin in general. And if we search up Laureles, it's going to zoom in there. And it's right here, okay? It's pretty big, as you can see. Here is Centro, and to the south is Poblado, Envigado, all those other places, which I'll cover in future videos. So if you want to see those, make sure you subscribe to the channel. But let's zoom in a bit, and there's a few identifying features here. Here, this big block here is the university, UPB. Here is the sports stadium, which I spoke about before. They call it Estadio. And here are the two parks of Laureles, Primer Parque, first park, and Segunda Parque, second park. Around here is a lot of great housing, entertainment, cafes, everything is around there, right? So use those three as your main landmarks and welcome to the neighborhood of Laureles. Let's get into pros and cons. So number one is authentic Colombian living, right? So if you go to stay in a place like Poblado, which is the main tourist district of Medellin, maybe you've been there, maybe you haven't, but if you have, you know that it could be any big city in the world. It has skyscrapers, has modern apartments, it has fancy restaurants. You don't really feel like you're in a different country. I don't like that. I personally like to go to a place and feel like I'm somewhere else. I like a bit of culture shock because that forces me to kind of get out of my comfort zone, learn about a different culture. And you're really going to get that in Laureles because it's still, even though it's developing a lot now and tourism is really booming in this area, and obviously with the article coming out too, tourism is going to continue to boom in this area, it still retains a lot of the traditional feel. And another great thing about the traditional feel is that I know a lot of you will come to Colombia with the goal of learning Spanish. One big tip that I always give is that if you want to learn and at a rapid rate, you need to immerse yourself. You need to eliminate English from your life. So if you're in Poblado, many of the times you'll find people that speak English because obviously they all work in tourism and they all work with gringos who don't know one word of Spanish. So they've learnt over the years, right? So if they see you and they see that you're a gringo, many times they might just switch to English because they know it and it's easier. But if you're in Laureles, they don't have another option. They don't speak English. So you're going to be 24/7 immersed in a different language and a different culture. So if that's the type of travel you like, you're really, really going to love Laureles. Another big pro is that it's much, much cheaper than areas like Poblado. Poblado is the most expensive area, more or less, in Medellin. But Laureles, you can find places which are about 25 to 50% cheaper. And I'm not just talking about rent, I'm talking about other things as well, like food, even shopping, entertainment. Everything is going to be cheaper living in Laureles. And sometimes people think that cheaper means nothing to do, right? I've had many, many people comment and be like, hey, cost of living in Medellin is like $1,500, $2,000. I can just live in a small town and pay $500. Yeah, sure, but there's all to do over there and you're going to be bored out of your brain. Laureles is cheaper than Poblado, but it still retains a lot of things to do, right? So for example, there's great options for lifestyle and entertainment. You can go out to, as I said before, La Setenta, which is absolutely pumping every night of the week, if you like that type of hard party. But if you don't, and you just like going out and having, you know, a nice dinner or a couple of drinks, then you can go to an area which is near the two parks, those two parks I mentioned before, Primer Parque and Segunda Parque. It's a street full of restaurant options and bars as well. In the same street, Italian food, Peruvian food, Mexican food, Brooklyn burgers, ice cream, frozen yogurt. So many options. If you like to get out of the house and you like a bit of co-working atmosphere, I'm going to show you one on the screen now. This is a great spot. I really like it. This is Semilla Cafe. Right now we're seeing the bottom floor, the ground floor, where it's more of a cafe vibe, but many people work there during the day. If you go up to the top level, they actually have offices. So you can rent an office if you need to take meetings and stuff. They have hot desks if you need to work that way also. It also has a lot of options for networking and socializing, whether it might be with other foreigners or locals. For example, they have language exchanges, a couple actually in Laureles. Plus, if you're into sports, it has their Estadio Sports Complex, where basically every sport you want to play is going on there and you can join in. So I play tennis there, but there's also soccer. There's also American football. There's also basketball. Every single sport is going on at the Estadio Sports Complex. As you can see, there's a lot to love about Laureles, but it's not all good. There are some big cons, which I'm going to get into in just a second. But first, I want to tell you, if you're enjoying this video and you want a bit more in-depth understanding of each neighborhood and some things that I actually don't cover in this video, then click the first link in the description. It's going to take you through to a page where you can sign up for a free course, Where to Live in Medellin. So sign up for that. As I said, it's completely free and you're going to learn basically everything about the major neighborhoods where expats might want to visit or might want to live. So now that the pros are done, let's get stuck into the cons. And number one big con of Laureles is that there's so much noise. It's very difficult to get away from the noise in Laureles unless you go to your Airbnb first and you check that there's no main streets around, right? This can be a bit difficult for those of you, you know, booking the Airbnb before you get here, but just understand that you might have to ask your host what's going on there, what's the noise situation like, because the windows here are very thin and they don't really do any noise, I guess, soundproofing. Con number two about Laureles is that there's a good chance if you're in Laureles and you want to go to any other neighborhood, you're going to be stuck in traffic, especially if it's during peak hours in the morning and the afternoon. And what comes with traffic? High levels of pollution. Air pollution, not so good in Laureles. Probably the worst in all of Medellin. If you don't know, Medellin is like in a valley, right? That's why the views are so beautiful with all the mountains and stuff. But Laureles is basically smack bang in the middle of that valley. And what does that mean? All the smog and pollution gets stuck in that area. So if you have some issues with breathing or something, maybe also Laureles, not the best place for you. Another thing that comes with traffic and location at the bottom of the valley is heat. Let me give you a quick story. A mate of mine, he actually came to my studio to film a course that he was doing for his business a couple of days ago. And he's a Poblado guy. He loves it over there because you get the modern apartments, you get the networking with the other foreigners and things like that. So he likes to stay there and he hardly leaves that area. But he came out to Laureles and we decided, hey, let's go for lunch. And as soon as we stepped out the door, he's like, oh my God, it's like an oven. It's so hot. The heat difference between here and Poblado, noticeably much more. So if you don't like heat, maybe Laureles also might not be a good place for you because it's hot all the time, man. I have an air conditioner here running right now. I just bought an air conditioner for my bedroom because without it, can't sleep. And the final thing that might be a negative for some people is that if you're a luxury traveler, I know some of you want to come, you got a bit more money to spend and you just want the best apartment and you want all the best amenities. You're probably not going to find it in Laureles. The apartments in Laureles, although nice, they're a bit more old-fashioned. You're not going to find the high-rises with the apartments looking like they're Miami. If you want that, Poblado is the place to be. So I hope that's given you a great understanding of the neighborhood of Laureles, and it shows you a bit about why it was voted the coolest neighborhood in the world and why I love living here myself. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and also subscribe because this is just one part, the first part, in a series that I'm going to be doing covering the other neighborhoods of Medellin. Next week, we'll have Poblado.